So now that we're in the divine feminine securely, now we have to learn how to appease Hathor or Kali or whatever goddess you attribute to being a ruler, and the many facets being both nurturing, reproductive, being also on an alchemical level an embodiment of those and many other principles. Beauty, wisdom, you have the paternal instincts, protection, security, a foundation. But on a societal level, I'll cut right to the key codes for you, or two that are very beneficial when dealing with feminine energy, because that's ultimately on our level going to be how to deal with the female. When you listen to the way a female talks and describes things, if you're a man, then you understand that the thrill is in the details, and the thrill is not necessarily in the objective of a storyline, but in the action that's involved in the narrative of the storyline. We have to, as men, because we're structured, so the patriarchal energy was very structured on a matter of fact type of energy, where it was fewer words and, fewer descriptives. It was just about this is that, black or white. you know it wasn't all of these millions of shades going between black and white, which we're in now, which is okay. It's okay to be under the divine feminine, because on a spiritual level it connotates and necessitates an attention to detail when it comes to the moods of our energies. So if we're under the spiritual, and since we're under the spiritual divine feminine, then it just makes sense to understand the female, to understand that is the details in the conversation. It's not about what she went to get at the store. It's about everything that takes place on the way to the store, making the trip to the store more alive, more detailed. And as a male, you have to jump, you have to understand that duality of conversation, that conversation is not about just black and white. It's not about just subject, predicate, mission, objective, success, failure. It's about the journey. And you can learn that from the female. You can learn how valuable the journey is. The journey is very important, because on a higher level of gratitude, and when your vibration is high enough, you can understand that success is actually in the journey itself, along with the destination of the journey. Earl Nightingale, rest in peace, said it himself. He said, the moment you know where you're going and you head in that direction, you're a success right there at that moment. So savor the details, savor all the ingredients that the day entails, so that on a vibrational level, we can raise the consciousness to match what the divine feminine is under. Because remember, she has to be appeased, and according to all of the mythologies, her wrath is insurmountable. It's nothing that you can resist. She can slay the entire human race, the divine feminine energy, which is also on a higher level known as the womb of the universe. If the womb of the universe closes, no human or machinery or technology is stronger than an entire universe, as far as I know. So we have to learn how to work with it, work with these things. Don't be afraid of those quote unquote taboo topics. Learn about it. Learn about those things, because it doesn't have to mean what it meant in the old patriarchal system for you. Take a forbidden term like a Baphomet. Very, very forbidden, very high targeted term. It doesn't mean that you have to abide by any of the principles that was associated with that under the old divine masculine, because the divine feminine could basically be saying this is not, this Baphomet image is no longer about gender, is no longer about sex preference, is only about understanding the masculine, feminine, and being able to blend as a society, which is really just on a level being able to get along. Males and females get along, males and males get along, female and female get along. You don't have to associate any kind of perversions with an image like that anymore under the divine feminine, because we're not talking about things that suggest you do any particular behaviors. We're just looking at signs and symbols and redefining them to mean something that can be beneficial for everybody. That's all we're doing. So regardless of what we talk about, it will never be forbidden because of our approach to it. We're not trying to polarize anything, but we're giving an acknowledgement to what we're seeing in these times. And so under this divine feminine energy, it's if you're a man, again, if you're a male, it would mean that kind of dad that your children love to be around. The kids, children naturally love to be around their mothers. But if you happen to be a father who your kids love to be around, then that is evidence of you understanding and working inside the divine feminine, even if you don't recognize it to be so. It for another man, it can mean having control over his emotions, not snapping in an outrage, not having an outburst, just being in control over his emotions. Even if he feels fuming angry, he just knows how to walk off and breathe and chill and lower his heart rate and then step back cool, step into the situation cool again. These are also aspects of this motherly, take care, nurture, very close to the heart, swaddling type of energy that you can be a beneficiary of. But if you still want to go under the divine masculine, which was really perverted by some patriarchal energies that really didn't have the best interest of the populace at heart, according to how this overall and subconscious narrative goes. So to still try to value or look at a woman as a second class citizen and all of that kind of stuff, to look at them as automatically a weaker vessel, you see how when you perpetuate that, you can push the female energy into a box where now you have a lot of these movies where the superheroes is a woman that's taking out a lot of guys now. Because look at, before that, hundreds of years and thousands of years before that, the woman was like damn near held on a chain and with a leash around her neck. So to balance that out, now you have the kickback of that, because the universe is not biased. It doesn't prefer one side over the other. The universe is the womb. Male and female come out of a womb. So the universe is not putting one over the other. But those energies do take turns in the cosmos in terms of governing energy. We needed the divine masculine in the times of an iron age, etc., when you needed to have like a lot of force of body and a lot of physical temperament that dealt with just the elements and assembly and a lot of manual labor. The divine masculine was a very necessary energy to build society in terms of buildings and structures. But now that all of these structures are here, and now we're in a place where those structures are actually less important, which is also indicative that we're under the reverse energy of the divine masculine, being now the divine feminine. Because look, we're not even dealing with buildings anymore. We're dealing with a whole metaverse now. We're not even dealing with a universe. That's not universe B, that's universe C. Universe B is supposed to come from within you, the human unit, and go out. That's universe B, according to the clip off of the Spears of Illuminism. Learn all these things. It won't hurt. It won't hurt you. It's not going to make you evil. You know, it's just working with the information you have and making it beneficial for yourself and others. That is all. You're not telling them to do anything to anybody. You're not telling them to believe in any entity or whatever the case. Just looking at principles, looking at symbols, redefining them so it can be something that is constructive for all, harming none, and being beneficial at least to yourself. So this divine feminine, we're not even dealing with these buildings or structures anymore. So that already tells you that we're in this feminine energy where it's not about the house, it's about the keeper of the house, it's about the people in the house more than the house now. Beforehand, it was about not only the house, but how many houses, how big the house can be, what kind of levels, how many basements, how many attics, how many balconies. It was about that under the divine masculine because that was more about physical structure. And again, I could be inaccurate, but this is just as I channel it based on things that I read, based on things that I studied, and I'm just trying to take it as it comes. I'm kind of doing like a just a real time observation, just letting it flow, which is also a divine feminine aspect. You ever, I mean, look at how a woman could be on the phone with her homegirl, looking at or filling out a resume or whatever, at the same time doing laundry, cooking for the kids, and one of the kids be in the bath. She washing the kid, she vacuuming the floor, she's cleaning the furniture, she's doing all of this seamlessly. A man who is stuck only in a divine masculine, he sees a structure crumbling, so he's just going to go crazy, and he's going to step outside and call a woman like, listen. But for to understand from the female perspective, it just means going with the flow because details are going to come at you in a random way in life. um, but to be able to go with that energy as it comes, to be like, okay, I wasn't expecting this, but you know what, I can transition into this kind of energy. And then, once that energy fades or that wave dies down, then you jump on the next wave. You can see it in hip hop music, because certain things aren't necessarily taught. You'll have a whole generation of rappers that's facing an unnecessary blame, what you call mumble rappers, or what you call like rappers that speak in triplets and rhyming, the way you hear it all now, what you would call trap, etc. You can't be mad at all of that music. You can't be mad at all the emo music because decades before that, that was already around. It was in the form of like a Bone Thugs and Harmony. You had groups that was already singing in triplets with like gangster subject matter rhymes, etc. Different topics also. And shout out to that group, to Bone Thugs, because they did their numbers. They did their numbers. In a time where legends were also doing their numbers too. They did. So you can't get mad at a whole generation of babies like 25 years later or 30 years later, that sound like a offshoot of that, whether they know it or not. You had your Crucial Conflicts. You had what's that other group? Poe Pimp. You had different groups out west that was already on their triplet game. You had another groups in the Midwest and the South. You did have people that was already doing that, which is already evidence that across the divine feminine, to bring it back, is you'll get a rendition of things through the divine feminine. You'll have this form of emulation that will be seamlessly there, very subtle, very very subtle. It won't be so masculine, so in your face, so bold, so structurized, so rigid. It'll be, a lot will be left up to interpretation. There'll be a lot of finding clarity in the midst of ambiguity. There'll be a lot of those things. So you take your time with life and savor the details, because the victory is in the details. Again, under the divine masculine energy, the phrase was the devil's in the details. But now, I mean, altogether, you could say the deification is in the details. I mean, how would you not be like a god over your life if you're in control of all of your details and management of all your details? And it takes a feminine energy to have that kind of attention to detail. They work well in customer service. So humans deal with each other well in the details of life, because Hathor, that wrath, can destroy everything. One of the mythologies even has Kali as the goddess of time itself. So time can even work against you if you don't work in the details of time, within the framework of time. Be detailed even over time. You don't have to believe in Kali as a physical goddess to understand that time can work against you if you don't pay attention to the details in time. Kali is just a symbol. Being the goddess of time is just a symbol. The fact that she's a female is just a symbol. But what it does connotate is the female is pointing to the attention to detail, like a symbol: female, detail, female, detail. So there's much more, infinitely more, that could be said about it. Other content creators already do that. So just check them out, far and wide, and I'll be pleased to know what you find.